Greetings Indie Warriors and welcome to I Dream of Indie. My name's OldGamer Joe and today we have a review of action-adventure RPG Sword and Fairy Together Forever on the PlayStation 4. This title comes to us from developer Softstar and was published by eastasiasoft. Despite the fact that the Sword and Fairy series has been around for 27 years, I gotta be honest, this was the first time I've ever played one. With a strong focus on Chinese mythology, the franchise has 7 mainline games, countless spin-offs, and even a TV series. With that said, I'm not entirely sure how this game ties into previous entries narratively, but I can say that this is a deep story with countless twists and turns and tons of cutscenes, like Metal Gear Solid length cutscenes, maybe even longer. There were multiple times where I rested my controller for pretty close to an hour. So with that said, actually explaining this plot is no easy task, and due to the nature of this game, new plot lines are constantly being introduced. But I'll try to start from the beginning, and this will be a very basic rundown, so go easy on me. You have 3 emperors who are creating different beings. These are deities, beasts, and humans. You'll begin playing as Xiao Wu, which I apologize for that pronunciation, who finds himself in a fierce battle against the Garuda King. He ends up gaining control of a sword called Chunzi, which gives him the ability to teleport. From here, the game will often shift perspectives, and players will also be controlling different characters at different times, or sometimes have a full party that you can switch between on the fly, but more on that later. While the emotional moments can hit pretty hard and the cutscenes feature some incredible direction, particularly in the action scenes, pacing does often feel a bit off throughout this game. There are long-winded conversations that drag out for what feels like an eternity, to the point that by the time I regained control, I often would forget how to play the damn game. So be warned, Sword and Fairy Together Forever often feels like watching a full-length movie, and not all of these segments are all that exciting, so it's easy to get the story jumbled up in your head and to not really understand what's going on. Thankfully, there is a log that will kind of help you with that, but sometimes you'll briefly regain control of your character, only to take a few steps and be launched back into more cutscenes. Just wow. When you are actually playing, you'll find a pretty familiar loop if you've played any modern action RPG in the last decade or so. You have a pretty good navigation system that will label your main mission and also any side missions quite well. Getting around different areas is a breeze thanks to a fast travel system where you can use a flying creature to reach areas across this massive world. It's a shame that most of the side quests feel like simple fetch quests and are really easy to complete in many cases by just running from point A to point B and then back to point A. The game's main missions carry some decent weight to them. You are given compelling enough reasons to press forward. I just wish it didn't take so long to get to those reasons, but once you're into the actual combat, I found it very enjoyable in Together Forever. Dashing around enemies is a breeze, and the camera controls quite well. You do have full control over that camera. Switching between characters is also a breeze. Simply hold down the L2 button and hit the face button that corresponds to that character, and you swap right into them. In combat or not, you'll also have a sprint, and you have special magic abilities that can be equipped to certain buttons and then activated by holding down R2 and pressing that corresponding button. Your big Art of Sanity attack can be activated with the click of 2 buttons at once, and targeting enemies feels pretty dang good as well. So overall, I really enjoyed the combat. I just wish there weren't these massive breaks in between it to the point where I would almost lose my flow with the combat. This game also does a pretty good job of mixing things up from time to time and trying some different things. There is a card game built into this title, which isn't really that well explained and I didn't personally get into, and there's some other challenges that exist. They're mostly for bonus items and such, not really mandatory, and they involve platforming, so you can imagine how much fun they are when a game isn't really based around platforming, but still, nice bonus content. Being an action RPG, there are plenty of systems here, none of which are very complex, however, from cooking foods for temporary stat boosts to equipping your characters themselves. This is a well-designed product made by a developer that clearly understands the genre well. The menus are sleek, and I even thought the switching between characters not only allowed for strategy in battle, but was easy to do and very fun. I also loved how the devs implemented the D-pad with easy access to spirits, which can help you in combat and be fed food and such, as well as your map, quests, and backpack that is hopefully full of restorative items, because you will need to heal quite often in this game. This is also a fairly accessible experience, as you do have an easy, normal, and hard difficulty. I played on normal and thought it was pretty good balance. As far as visuals are concerned, Sword and Fairy Together Forever is quite a beautiful game, and you'll explore a dazzling variety of different locations. There's grim, dark volcanoes with fiery flying creatures. All of the creature design is excellent. There's snowy landscapes. The color palette is just delightful regardless of where you are in this big world, and there's some fantastic animations to boot. This visual treat is only hampered a bit by some wonky performance. On my PlayStation 4 Pro, the game struggled to maintain 60 FPS at times, though when it did, things really felt fantastic. Certain cutscenes would dip down into what felt like the 20s, and other areas also had dips, but overall, for how big this world is and beautiful the visuals tend to be, I thought the performance was pretty solid for an aging console, outside of some painfully long load times and the unfortunate crash or two. My PlayStation 4 Pro also sounded like a jet engine, which I almost forgot about because I rarely use this console now. The excellent visuals are well complemented by a gorgeous string soundtrack with swooping, soaring melodies that will pull at your heartstrings. Each track is absolutely gorgeous. Some of them are bombastic and heightened by authentic Chinese voice acting. No English dub here that I saw, and in this case I feel like that was the right decision. This ended up being one of my favorite game soundtracks of the year, and fans of action RPGs will absolutely love and appreciate these amazing compositions. They are truly beautiful. In the end, Sword and Fairy Together Forever is a wonderfully crafted action RPG, only held back by some really major pacing issues and those performance issues that I mentioned, at least on the PlayStation 4 Pro version. If you are in it for the action, you could certainly skip the story beats, but it would be at the cost of having no idea what's happening in the story, which I feel could ultimately make for a less than ideal experience. But that said, the combat sections are really fun, even the boss encounters. The game features plenty of skills to learn, mini games to be distracted with, and even some cute outfits to unlock. This is a massive, sometimes long-winded journey, but ultimately a rewarding one for patient players. We thank you so much for supporting clickbait-free content here at I Dream of Indie. We couldn't possibly make it without our brave indie warriors and legends. At the Indie Warriors tier, we have Bill, Adriana Amato, CJR, Julian Colbus, Ray Lynn, Marky Mint, Dave Hart, Peekaboo, Lex Noyle, Christian Cruz, PSC, Sularu C, Chic Geek, and Encha277. At the Indie Legends tier, we have Nathan Moore, Skeptism, Jen Rose, Chris Jackson, Mr. W, Blue Francis 14, The Beefarinis, Business Cody, Chiron, Jace Glover, King of the Hatch, Ophidian Mind, Lord Metroid, C. Coyle, and Larkison. Thank you so much for all that you do for independent developers, publishers, and for I Dream of Indie. Everybody else, head down to the description box below. Let's defeat the gaming echo chamber and bring a voice to the voiceless ones in gaming.